Today, for the first time, Times Now has accessed the original complaint filed by the 70-year-old lady who had a harrowing experience on an Air India international flight from New York to Delhi in November last year. The letter addressed to Air India chairman details how she watched in horror as a man unzipped, flashed her and then urinated all over her and her belongings in business class. And after all of this, he was allowed to walk away free. No accountability whatsoever. Even as we speak, 40 days since this disgusting incident, Shankar Mishra is still untraceable. While the trauma of that fateful flight might haunt this lady forever, all Mr. Mishra faces right now in terms of a punishment, he's being put on a no-fly list for 30 days, a reprimand lesser than what some get for a mere heckling of their co-passengers. To understand the gravity of the criminal dereliction, hear what the lady has said in her complaint and wonder why the pilot, the crew and Shankar Mishra should not be held criminally liable.
A male business class passenger seated in 8A walked to my seat completely inebriated. He unzipped his pants and urinated on me and kept standing there till the person next to me tapped him and told him to go back to his seat. Then he staggered back to his seat. I immediately got up and notified the stewardess. My clothes, shoes and bag were soaked in urine. The crew spread sheets on the seat, but it was still damp and reeking of urine. I refused to sit there. The crew told me that the pilot had vetoed giving me a seat in first class. I asked the staff for a change of seat, but was told that no other seat was available. I told them that I wanted the man arrested immediately. After sobering up, the crew brought the man to me. He started crying and profusely apologizing to me, begging me not to lodge a complaint. He said he is a family man and did not want his wife and child to be affected by this. I was made to confront and negotiate with the perpetrator of this horrific incident in close quarters. In my own shock and trauma, I found it difficult to insist on his arrest or to press charges against him. After deboarding, no one came to take down my complaint. I waited for 30 minutes and left. Air India crew was deeply unprofessional and there are also a number of failures. I emailed the complaint to Air India on 27th of November, but they have not acted yet.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
I'm sure anyone who has ever taken a flight, whose parents have ever flown, are all outraged. You all know the details by now. But we need answers to certain questions, and which is why we have a panel of experts, people who know the aviation industry inside out. Parvez Damania, former executive director of Kingfisher Airlines; Devesh Agarwal, chief analyst at BangaloreAviation.com; Zulfikar Memon, lawyer; and Vayan Sharma, aviation expert. Mr. Damania, I want to start by asking you, when something like this happens on board, what is the process? Who all would have known? So this lady, she wrote a letter. Who all within Air India and the Ministry of Civil Aviation or the DGCA would have known that this is what happened on the New York-Mumbai flight?
First and foremost, I think the protocols that should have been followed on the aircraft were not followed. The air hostess should have immediately informed the captain. This person should have been isolated, put in a way that he could cause no harm further to any other passengers. The ATC should have been informed by the captain. And as soon as the plane landed, the BCAS, which is charged of the security, or the police should have been there at the gate and arrested the man immediately. And then started prosecuting him in whatever way possible. The air hostess should have made a report, which is made after every flight. It should have been shared with the captain and gone to the company. And from the company, it would have gone to different people. And it's the serious incident is serious. It could jeopardize the safety of the passengers. That is why it was important for the company to inform the DGC of this flight, because this would require this man to be on the no-fly zone and no-fly list, and that no-fly list is controlled by the DGC. It was very imperative that the DGC should be informed. Now, according to what I understand, the Civil Aviation Minister said that he came to know this a day or two before. That definitely means that the matter has not gone to the DGC and Ministry of Civil Aviation. Another thing, the person has flashed. So he has not only committed a crime against this lady, but also to other ladies in the business class, also to the air hostess. So I think apart from this lady, any passenger who's been offended by this act could have filed a complaint. So I don't think, and another thing, the captain is the final authority on any aircraft. So the captain is in full power to allot the seat of a first class to anybody desires. And this is an extreme condition, and extreme harm has been caused to this lady. She has been traumatized very badly. So I'm sure that she should have been given a first class seat. She was made for us to sit in a crew seat, which is a jump seat, which is a very tiny and a highly uncomfortable seat. First of all, she's 72 years old. She's gone through this terrible trauma and shock. No other passengers came to help her except the gentleman who was sitting next to her, who asked this man to move. And then another thing, how could they even have the idea of bringing this man again in front of this lady who's already traumatized to create a compromise? It is not in the right of these crew people to do a compromise. They should have just followed the protocol, informed the police and got him arrested.
So
the airline and I'm surprised that a company like Tata's,
Yes, sir, just a second.
It's such a customer-friendly company. The Tatas have always cared for the customer.
Exactly, and it's not about the company as a whole, but the crew in particular, and which is why I want to address each of these issues one by one, Devesh Agarwal. Number of important points raised by Mr. Damania. Simple question to you is, can the crew be booked for criminal offence? Not just about dereliction of duty, but a criminal offence, given that what happened to this lady was a crime. She was flashed, she was urinated upon, she was harassed. Devesh Agarwal.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. See, it's like this. What the crew did was a dereliction of duty. They have not really breached a quote-unquote criminal code of the Indian Penal Code. What they have done, and there are multiple rules. There is a thing called the Rule 22, the Rule 23 of the Aircraft Rules 1937, which is the governing set of rules under which all civil aviation operations in India are conducted. Similarly, India is a signatory to the 1975 Tokyo Act. It is actually codified in the Indian laws in the Gazette of India. These are very clearly defined that if a passenger does this, if the passenger is endangering an aircraft, there is a set of categories, category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4, at what level of disruption a particular passenger has caused. And the crew is obligated at the end of the flight to file an incident report. I was rather shocked when I read that the crew made a claim, oh, we thought the matter was amicably resolved. It doesn't matter. You are obligated by law. My question is, one, to the management of Air India, and as I said, it could be a legacy of all these years of government and unionization at Air India that, the crew has become sort of indifferent. But I would ask the current owners of Air India what are they doing to enforce the rules and laws of the Republic of India, their own procedures, furthermore international agreements. Similarly, I would ask the same question of the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security and the Minister of Civil Aviation, that this matter is more than 40 days old. They have only woken up after this matter has reached the media, and I have to give credit to the media that you all have raised this issue. But my question is, why is there not a culture already in India that the moment a person commits an infraction, action is taken? I recall in 2009 when, a lady who was part of the Guinness family, Miss Claire Irby, she decided to have a mile-high romp in Kingfisher Airlines flying from Bangalore to London. And the moment she landed in London, the police literally stormed on board, put her on the floor, handcuffed her, handcuffed the man she was having a romp with, carted them both off to jail, and then produced them in court the next morning. Nobody, I mean, this is what rule of law is all about. Why is the rule of law not being enforced? It's a simple question I have from all the people in charge. The people at the airline, the people at the ministry, the people at regulatory agencies. What are you guys doing? Why are the rules of law? The laws are already there, the rules are already there. What are you doing? Why are you not enforcing it?
So Mr. Mishra, definitely he has a lookout circular against him, but Zulfikar Memon,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, just to answer your question, if I was the government, I would take this crew and basically just de-roster them and basically remove all their flying rights, right from the captain down to the stewardesses.
Zulfikar Memon, why shouldn't that be done? And why hasn't that been done?
I'm sorry to use the word stewardesses, I meant cabin crew.
Well, Padmaja,
sorry?
A lot has been said. You see, can you hear me?
Yes, go on, Mr. Memon.
Yeah, see, honestly, I'm not supporting the crew here as such, but I think we must just step aside for some time and think. We must try and put ourselves into their position, and try to understand this incident. Like this would have, I think that this incident would have even shocked them, and probably it would have been the first of its kind in their career. I'm not sure if they were equipped in any way to deal with a chaotic situation like this. Nowhere defending them, but this is just my perspective. I think we must now wait and see how the investigation is conducted. All of these aspects are going to be played out in the investigation. I've mentioned this earlier on the show that what is being projected regarding the 30-day ban as far as the airlines is concerned is not the correct picture. Let me once again bring it to the kind attention of your viewers that the 30-day ban by the airlines is not the final verdict. And the punishment imposed on this Mr. Mishra, whoever it is just interim.
So with the greatest of respect, I'm a layperson, but isn't the cabin crew trained exactly for this? To handle situations which happen once in their career. A hijacking is also a once in a career event. But that is exactly why you undergo training, so that you are able to deal with that once in a career event.
Cabin crew.
No, all of these things are going to be brought out at the time of an investigation as to how it has been said here that they should have reported it. They should have reported it regardless of the fact that they thought that there was a settlement.
I think Mr. Damania is responding to your argument that it was a shocking thing for them, Mr. Damania.
Zulfi. Zulfi. No.
I'm sorry, I don't agree with that.
The air hostess go through a very rigorous training. One minute. The air hostess undergo a very rigorous training program. At the end of the training, they appear for an exam. And every year, they attend a refresher program. So they are put up to speed to all these emergencies and are trained to... Okay, another thing, let's put it this way. This was a big aircraft. The air hostesses working in the business class are always senior to handle these kind of business class and first class passenger. So they were not young girls just recruited 6 months or a year ago. These must have been very, very experienced air hostesses and who've gone through years and years of training and years of working on the aircraft. And some of these actions need common sense. They don't require a training. There's an old lady which is shocked on the road or in a car. We would all go out to help her. So some of these matters are of common sense.
Exactly.
So
I mean, no offense, but even if I was a passenger and I saw a man urinating on a co-passenger, leave alone cabin crew, you would stand up and intervene and say what on earth is going on. You don't require any elaborate training for that, Mr. Memon.
No, can you imagine this?
Agreed, but didn't they try to do whatever best
Can you imagine?
No, they didn't. Nobody intervened. If you read the complaint, the only person who intervened in that time, that man was standing there, unzipped in front of her after urinating on her, till a co-passenger tapped him and said, "Go away." Nobody from the crew stepped forward.
Probably the crew was not present at that time when this was happening. I find it very difficult to believe.
The whole situation is terribly embarrassing to speak about.
One minute. I find it extremely difficult to believe that the crew was standing there watching him urinating on a passenger doing nothing. I don't think that would have been possible. All of these things will
Even
come out
if
in
they
the
were not
investigation.
standing there, it's more worrying if they were not standing there.
Sorry, sir.
Because if you have a passenger being harassed, if you have a passenger being practically molested, and the crew had no inkling, that's even more worrying.
No, but on the other hand, I believe that the aviation sector must come up with stricter rules in relation to how much alcohol should be served to the passenger on the flight.
If you don't mind.
Okay, Mr. Agarwal wants to quickly intervene. Mr. Agarwal quickly intervening, yes.
Okay. No, if I may, see, ma'am, it's very simple. There is a clearly defined procedure. If any incident occurs on board an aircraft, exactly how Mr. Damania said, there has to be an incident report filed by the CCIC, the cabin crew in charge, at the end of the flight. Under the Tokyo Convention, believe it or not, the captain of an aircraft is given practically the authority of God to ensure the safety of his aircraft or her aircraft and the safety of the passengers on board that aircraft.
And the passengers.
So the fact that the cabin crew, and I'm sorry,
the report comes later.
I mean, I have done, probably. No, ma'am, just a minute. I was about to say.
Why was the crew standing there?
If I was the co-passenger of that lady, I would have kicked this guy right in his private parts. I mean, how can somebody just tap this guy? I would have knocked the guy out. The crew has done nothing.
And the crew should have restrained him. Okay, Mr. Sharma wants to come in. Mr. Sharma. And also the primary question arises, who got this man so drunk? Because apparently he was completely inebriated and out of control, Mr. Sharma. How is that allowed on flight?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's just visualize this. This is a long-haul flight. There is a man who's very inebriated. And you know how it happens after the dinner service is over. They dim the lights and normally the passengers go off to sleep, especially in the business class. They recline the seats and go off to sleep. This man, being blind drunk, tries to stagger to the toilet to relieve himself. He is so drunk that he can't make out that he hasn't reached the toilet. And he just unzips and starts peeing at a passenger. Now that's one thing which happens. Now after he is led back to his seat.
No, what was the crew doing?
The lady, a 74-year-old lady,
blind drunk
she reports it to the cabin.
On a lady.
The crew normally, ma'am, one sec. Normally, I think all of us have taken these flights. Normally, once the lights are dim, the crews normally take a break in the galley. They're not standing on 24-hour watch over the passengers, right?
But sir,
when it was reported to the cabin crew,
when the lights are dim?
All that they did was they spread some sheets.
What if this was not a urination but a molestation episode?
Ma'am, may I finish?
Yes, go on.
May I finish? Can we see, nobody is defending this action in any way. There is no way anybody can defend this, right? But let's put this in a realistic perspective of what has happened. Once the crew is told, what they do is they put some sheets, obviously the business class is full. They should have, when they reported to the captain should have immediately given permission for her to be moved to the first class seat, which was empty. Apparently, the crew comes back and said, sorry, the captain has vetoed the idea. And I'm wondering what kind of brain power was this captain exercising when he is appraised of the fact, and then he says, no, I'm not going to allow the passenger to move to first class. What kind of nonsensical behavior is that? And once this happens, after 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, when the guy sobers up a little, then the crew gets this person across to the lady and literally browbeats her into not making a complaint, which is so out of their purview. They should have immediately, like what somebody else said earlier, a message should have been flashed ahead that at the time of landing there should have been a reception party waiting for this gentleman who would have then dealt with him properly. All that they did was that they said, okay, fine, matter over, which is not how it works. So there should have been an incident report. All that they have done is, and I was speaking to some crew in the daytime, and one of the facts was, they said, 16 hours, 17 hours we've operated a flight. We know we make a complaint, then we'll have to spend 3 hours with the police writing out reports. So, there's a mental hesitation to making a complaint. How stupid can it be? How can you condone an action like this? Even if it takes you 6 hours after your flight to finish the paperwork.
Well, be that as it may, irrespective of what their reasons were, this has happened, and which is why action should be taken not only against this gentleman, and he should be taken off all flights forever, but the crew as well need to really answer and pay for what has happened to this 70-year-old lady. For sharing your experience with us, thank you very much, all gentlemen. Thanks for watching.
The News Hour at 10. We'll be right back.